Hello, I'm Yipwin, and I don't normally do this. There's been some weird activity and some more politics getting into Factorio than we normally see, and anyone who follows the Factorio Twitter or Reddit will already know some of this. First, a bit of background context and the actual facts of what are going on. Earlier in the week, the massive YouTuber known as PewDiePie dropped a racial slur during a game stream. As part of the fallout from that one, of the developers of the game Firewatch announced and then followed through on an idea that he was going to take a DMCA copyright takedown against his game video on PewDiePie's channel. This was done, according to him, to separate himself and his product from someone that he saw as a damaging and problematic personality. And he was encouraging others to do the same, but I don't think as of now anyone has. Where this becomes relevant to Factorio is yesterday, or September 10th, on the game's Twitter, responding to an article by Polygon about the incident. Factorio's Twitter posted, "So after the exposure he provided and relevance of the game has passed, they use a DMCA to make a political statement." Now this is being read several different ways by people on the Reddit as a condemnation of the DMCA takedown strike, which it may well be. And some are seeing it as a endorsement of PewDiePie and his actions, which I definitely see an argument for reading it that way. It is also very blatantly an attack and a somewhat out of touch and unpleasant one against the Firewatch developer for making political statements. Now, the DMCA is an entirely different discussion, and I will not be having it here. It's being used to distract from the issues of PewDiePie's long history of racism and whether or not small game companies deserve the right to separate themselves from personalities who are becoming an issue. Now, there are some other things on the Twitter that I would like to cover first before I get into my full opinions on this. Replying to a tweet that Stejo made debating the legality of the DMCA takedown strike, Factorio replied, "Did you just have an opinion I don't agree with? Enjoy DMCA on all your Factorio LPs." Now this is very obviously meant to be more satirical, but we see it continuing this pattern of excusing or labeling the actions taken by PewDiePie and other similar people as being opinions, or that the political action of calling them out or going against them is somehow in itself unfavorable. And then finally, for yesterday, there was a tweet in Czech, which I believe is most of the developers of Factorio's native language, by a different person. I am unfamiliar with this person personally, and I'm not going to include their name. I'm not going to attempt to read the Czech. I will have a picture of it on screen with the Google translation. The Google translation of the original tweet was, "You are doing God's work, comrades, in the extermination of Western ultra-lefty. Do not forget the cardinal rule, never speak to them." And Factorio's reply, according to Google Translate, was, "This is not a bad thing." Several more translations were then given on the Reddit, one of which may be slightly more accurate, was, "You're doing a wonderful job at making those Western ultra-leftists mad, comrades. Just don't forget the cardinal rule, never apologize to them." The reply could be translated as, "We sure won't." I've also been told on the Reddit that it could be, "Don't worry about it," or several similar things. Now, what now appears to be the official Reddit opinion, as it was the post that was flagged by the moderators as the one to look at when that thread was closed for the spread of misinformation, that the way this is worded in Czech could be considered a over-the-top way that is meant as a more satirical or joking manner. But it is still very troubling to me that the official Factorio Twitter is replying to calls to continue making ultra-leftists mad or exterminate them, and to never apologize for that. Now, if it was a joke, why is it appearing on the main Factorio Twitter account? This morning, there was a new tweet that appears to be trying to address some of these issues. Reading, recently there were tweets with personal opinions of some people in the company. We will keep it focused on Factorio for now. Now that is at least somewhat reassuring that this was a rogue event, someone airing personal business on a company platform. But then that still begs the question of why the 3 tweets that I mentioned are still up. No reference has been made to them, and we still do not have any word on what the company line is on these issues. So those are the facts of the matter. Now, as I said, I'm not going to be discussing the DMCA takedown strikes here. It is a very complicated issue that I have very conflicted views on. And in these discussions recently, it is being used to distract from one of the other issues, which is both the addressing of the racism culture on YouTube and in a portion of the gaming community, and also whether small independent companies are represented or are more intimately linked with the YouTube personalities that cover them. So this is where things get slightly more political, and many of you know from my videos that I don't go out of my way to discuss politics most of the time, but I also don't go out of my way to avoid it, so many of you probably have heard my slightly left-leaning viewpoints. But I do firmly believe that while YouTubers are independent and for the most part freelance and don't take pay from the companies or games that we make videos of, they could very much be seen as endorsements. The videos that I make could very well be seen as endorsements of the games that I'm playing and telling people about. In the same way, since I make videos, especially since I make videos particularly about one game more than others, my actions could be seen to reflect on that game. So I do feel that the two are very intimately linked. It was kind of an accident. It was the rise of the indie developer and the rise of the independent YouTube game personality, for lack of a better term. And those two things coming to the fore at a similar time period has led to this odd symbiotic relationship. But because both of them happened at the same time and somewhat accidentally, there is no formalization of that relationship. So when a YouTuber like PewDiePie, who is very large and very powerful on the platform, becomes someone that game companies do not want their brand associated with, it becomes an issue. Now, the way it was done by the Firewatch developer, as I've said, I have very conflicted viewpoints on, and the method is not what's being discussed, but I do believe that they have the right to separate themselves from a personality that they do not want their product associated with. And in the same way that I believe that I would be seen as endorsing the things that I do on my channel, and so I have to look at them very carefully. Now, Many of the things on the Factorio Twitter and Reddit recently have not been that bad, if you look at them on their face. But they do repeat a pattern. The liked references to taking off leftists and the continual assertion that the condemnation of racism is just too political, or some sort of opinion that you should leave out of things, or something that you shouldn't be trying to separate yourself, or that racism is something you shouldn't be trying to separate yourself from because it's just an opinion. These are things that are very troubling to me. Now, yes, they did say that this is the action of some individuals, unnamed, who are airing personal grievances on the company Twitter. And when I sent an email to try to clarify to the Factorio main email, which of course is run by their community manager, I'm not using names partially because I don't want to mispronounce them, but also because I'm not trying to call out any individuals here. I was sent an email that clarified, which I was asked not to quote from verbatim, but the use of the word verbatim would imply to me that they meant me to paraphrase, that none of the actions were meant as either a condemnation or endorsement of PewDiePie's actions. Now that's at least better, but the non-condemnation of racism still troubles me. It was again reiterated that these were the opinions of a few, and that it was not representative of the Factorio team as a whole, which becomes the crux of my issue here. Now, the Factorio Twitter, Factorio as a company, as an entity, is made by a small team. The game itself, the company itself, is linked to this small team in the same way that every indie development is. Because it's not a very large company, the people could be said to represent the game a lot more closely than it would be if it was, say, Assassin's Creed or something made by more people. Now, while each of these has been the opinion of one or more individuals who works for the team, and it does not represent the entire team, we are left with the question, what does? Now, this incident with PewDiePie and the Firewatch developer was happening far separate from Factorio. They did not need to respond to it. But now that it has been, some sort of official line would be helpful in figuring out what this game represents, what these people want it to represent. Now, any individual working on a project can have their own opinions politically or on whatever else. Using the goodwill and attention generated by that product to spread what are very real hateful messages or support bigotry, even in a light way, I take issue with. Now, someone on the Reddit pointed out to me that if the developers of this game being more conservative bothered me, that it was a problem with me and not them. And that is correct. Being conservative, however, is not what bothers me. It is this possible casual endorsement, or at least ignoring of racism and bigotry within a community. And what that says about me is I do not know if I want to be associated with this. Now, some of the more recent things have given me more to think about, with this being the work of a few individuals and the company Twitter being retaken for Factorio related news only. But this is still not an official statement. This is still not what is being done about these opinions having been aired on an official way, and the tweets in question are still up. So, until I have figured more of these things out, and until there is a more official response that I can base things on, for now, I'm going to be suspending the production of Factorio content on my channel. I do not know if I can, in good conscience, continue to be connected with this product. Now, because I still have conflicted views on this, and because this is still something that is happening, I'm not going to take any stronger action than that right now. And there is a possibility that if this is resolved in a way that I feel separates the game enough from these actions, it will probably return. It is a game that I very much enjoy. It's a game that I've loved bringing you content of, and I don't want it to disappear from what I do. But I just cannot support what is happening with it right now. And I really hope that that changes and that it can come back. But in the meantime, I will be doing other content, other game content, and keeping an eye on things. But I just don't want to be a representative of some of these opinions and some of this non-condemnation of things that I find a very troubling wrong in the world. And if that bothers you, I was going to say I apologize, but I don't. These are my opinions. This is my channel. I want to be very careful what I associate myself with as an individual, because I have always wanted to only support the things that I feel should be supported. Many of you have heard my history with mental illness and similar topics, and some of those things have definitely informed my left-leaning politics. I know many people want to keep politics completely out of games, but keeping politics completely out of anything is impossible. So what this means to the channel right now, I have 1 or 2 bits of Factorio content, depending on when this video goes up, that are made and ready and scheduled to be released. Those will continue to be so because I don't want to take any more drastic action of changing what has already been set for the channel. Those are the last 2 bits of Factorio content that I had recorded up to this point. There will not be any more until I feel this has been dealt with to a level that I would want to continue being associated with. Now, that may be this level. If people continue talking to me about it, if I think about it, if my views on how it's been addressed by the company change, that may be it. If not, I don't know when the Factorio content would be returning. I recognize this is a political decision, and I recognize some people may take issue with that, but again, it is about what I personally feel I can be associated with online. And some of the things that have become associated with this are very, very troubling to me, especially the people replying to this and enjoying the way the company seems to be leaning on the Factorio Twitter and the arguments being centered around this on the Factorio Reddit. And while neither of those things is the company itself, at this point the company has a responsibility to clarify its viewpoints because it's been in the open. And continuing to not clarifying them is tantamount to support. I hope you can continue to enjoy the other content on the channel, and I very, very deeply hope this is dealt with in a way that will allow me to bring Factorio back, because it is a game that I enjoy and would like to continue supporting. But until that time, there will be other things. I don't know how to end this video because my normal offline doesn't seem particularly appropriate. So I will just say that I will be watching this closely.